It all started with a friendly smile. I felt broken, and he offered me a lifeline. "Join us," he said, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel alone. "My name is Dashel. I'm 29 years old and I should be dead. Or at least, I should want to be after what I did, after what they made me do. But I'm here, telling this story, because someone needs to know. Someone needs to understand how easy it is to lose yourself when you're desperate to belong." It was March in Seattle. Constant rain, permanent gray skies, that kind of damp cold that gets into your bones and won't leave. It had been 3 months since Meadow left me. 3 months living alone in an apartment that smelled of stale Chinese food and despair. I worked in an office doing something with spreadsheets that didn't even matter. 40 hours a week looking at numbers that meant nothing, surrounded by people who didn't know my name. I had no real friends in Seattle. I'd moved there for Meadow, following her like a pathetic puppy when she got her dream job. When she left me, "I need space to grow, Dash, and you just stay the same." I was stuck in a city where I knew no one, doing a job I hated, living a life I didn't recognize as my own. That particular Tuesday, it had rained all day. I left the office at 6, soaked before I even reached the corner because my cheap umbrella had flipped inside out in the wind. I decided to take shelter in a cafe, the Grinding Stone, a hipster place with tattooed baristas and indie music played too loud. I sat in a corner, dripping water onto the wooden floor, staring at my phone without really seeing anything. Just scrolling. Killing time before returning to my empty apartment. "You look like I felt a year ago." I looked up. A man was standing next to my table. 30-something, maybe 40. Tall, athletic build that was noticeable even under his rain jacket. Dark hair slicked back, a smile that reached his eyes. Something rare in Seattle. "Sorry, what?" "Lost. Like you're waiting for your life to begin, but you don't know how to do it." He sat down without invitation, but somehow it didn't feel intrusive. "I'm Crispin. Dashel." I don't know why I gave him my name. I was usually the type to avoid eye contact with strangers. "Bad day." "Bad year, more like." Crispin nodded, as if he understood perfectly. "Break up? That obvious?" I know the look. I had it. After my marriage blew up, I spent 6 months in zombie mode. Work, home, repeat. Waiting to wake up and feel something other than emptiness. His words hit me because they were exactly how I felt. Empty. As if someone had emptied everything that was Dashel and only the shell was left walking through routines. "And how did you get out of that?" I asked, hating how desperate my voice sounded. "I found brotherhood. Real men who support each other without the superficial bullshit of society. A circle of truth." He leaned forward. "Look, I know it sounds like a cult or some multi-level marketing bullshit, but it's not that. It's just a group of guys who get together to talk honestly. No judgment, no pretensions, just real." I should have said no. I should have seen the signs, the overly perfect focus, the words that sounded like he'd practiced them 1,000 times. But I was so alone, so desperately alone. "Where do you guys meet?" Crispin smiled. "We have a session this Thursday. I'll give you the address. Come. If you don't like it, you leave. No pressure." He gave me a card. It only had an address in the industrial district of Georgetown and the words, "The Circle, 8 p.m. I went. God, I went. On Thursday night, I found the place. An old brick building, probably an abandoned factory at some point. The front door was unlocked. Inside, stairs led down to a basement. I could hear male voices. Laughter. It sounded normal, friendly. I went downstairs. The basement was larger than I expected. They had laid down rugs, set up some folding chairs in a circle, and provided soft lighting from portable lamps. There were maybe 10 men there. Several were my age, some older, dressed casually. They seemed like normal guys, office workers, technicians. A waiter I recognized from a local restaurant. "Dashel," Crispin appeared, giving me a hug that surprised me. "Guys, this is Dash, potential new brother." Everyone greeted me, warmly, genuine. They offered me coffee, a chair, made me feel welcome in a way I hadn't felt in months. The session began. Crispin talked about authentic masculinity, about how modern society had emasculated men, stripping us of our fundamental nature. Some points sounded sensible, about not repressing emotions, about finding purpose. Others sounded more extreme. But he delivered them with such conviction, such charisma, that I wanted to believe. Then each man shared stories of pain, of loss, of feeling inadequate. And when it was my turn, it all came out. Meadow leaving me, my meaningless job, the crushing loneliness. I cried. I cried in front of 10 strangers, and none of them laughed. They hugged me. They told me they understood, that I mattered. "This is what you needed, right?" Crispin whispered afterward, when the session was over. "Real brotherhood." "Yes," I said, and I believed it. "Thank you. Come back next week. There's more, much more we can teach you." I came back. Of course I came back. The next 3 sessions were similar. Talks about empowerment, loyalty, strength, trust exercises, falling backward, and being caught, that sort of thing. I got to know the guys, learned their names. Dagny, who worked in construction. Theron, a programmer like me. Quillen, who was a chef. All with similar stories of pain and redemption through the circle. I felt better, like I finally had a purpose, something to belong to. But the 4th session was different. "Today," Crispin announced, his voice more serious than before, "those who are ready will move on to the next phase, initiation, becoming true brothers, not just visitors." My stomach lurched. Something in his tone was different, darker. What does that entail?" someone asked. A new guy named Shepard, who had only been twice. "Commitment, oath, shared blood." Crispin smiled, but this time it didn't reach his eyes. "Nothing permanent, just symbolic, but necessary. The circle only works if everyone is fully committed, without reservation." I should have left. That word, blood, should have sent me running. But the others looked calm, even excited, as if this were an honor. "You don't have to decide today," Crispin told me, but the way he said it, with that smile, made me feel like I did have to decide. That refusing would mean being expelled from the only community I had found in months. "I'll do it," I said. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. "Excellent," Crispin patted my shoulder. "Then the new initiates, Dash, Shepard, and Marlowe, stay behind. The rest of you, see you next week." The others left. The circle veterans. They went upstairs, leaving us alone with Crispin and 3 other men I hadn't seen before. Bigger guys, more intimidating. The basement lights dimmed. Someone locked the door upstairs. I heard the click, and my heart started beating faster. "Undress to the waist," Crispin ordered. He didn't sound friendly anymore. His voice was cold, authoritative. "What?" Shepard laughed nervously. "Why?" "Undress," Crispin's voice echoed in the basement. "Initiation requires vulnerability. It requires you to let down your defenses." We looked at each other. Shepard looked as scared as I felt. But Marlowe, a quiet guy who had barely spoken in previous sessions, was already taking off his shirt. We followed suit. Because what else could we do? Standing there, shirtless in the cold basement, I felt exposed in a way that went beyond the physical. My skin prickled. Not from the cold, from fear. One of the big men, Crispin called him Breslin, took out black blindfolds. "Put them on. The initiation is done without sight. You must trust." "I don't know if," I began. "Don't you trust your brothers, Dashel?" Crispin's voice was right behind me. "After all we've shared. You still have doubts." Guilt hit me, as if I were the problem, as if my fear were a character flaw. I put on the blindfold. The darkness was total. I could hear my own breathing, my heartbeat, the movements of the others. Hands grabbed me, multiple hands guiding me. I walked slowly, my bare feet on the cold concrete. I felt them position me, standing in what appeared to be a circle with the other initiates. "Kneel," Crispin commanded. We obeyed. "The circle is eternal." His voice echoed now, as if there were more people than I had seen. How many were really there? "Those who enter are blood brothers. Those who betray, well, there is no betrayal in the circle because once inside, there is no outside." Something cold touched my chest. Metal. I followed the line. It was a knife, the blade running across my skin without cutting. Yet, "They swear allegiance," Crispin continued. "Absolute allegiance. To the circle, to their brothers, to the teachings. They swear they will keep our secrets, that they will obey when called upon, that they will give whatever is required of them." I'm not sure about..." Shepard's voice trembled. The sound was sudden. A thud. Shepard screamed. I heard his body hit the floor. "Silence!" someone roared. "Initiates do not speak. They only swear or leave. And those who leave, well, they know too much to simply leave." My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. What the hell was this? I tried to laugh to say it was a joke, but my throat was closed. I couldn't make a sound. The knife pressed harder against my chest. I felt the skin open. Not deep, but enough. The burning was immediate, sharp. I gasped. "Do you swear?" Crispin's voice was close to my ear now, intimate, threatening. Yes. I swear." The words came out before I could stop them. "You swear what?" "I swear. Allegiance. To the circle, to the brothers. I will keep secrets. I will obey." Shared blood. The knife moved from my chest. I felt my left hand being taken, my palm up. Then the cut, quick, clean, across my palm. Sharp pain. I screamed. "Silence," Crispin hissed. "Men don't scream." Tears ran under the blindfold. From pain, from fear, from the horrible realization that I had made a terrible mistake. I felt another hand pressing against mine, palm to palm, blood mixing. Then another, and another. Multiple hands connecting with mine through the cut. "Blood brothers," voices around the circle chanted. "United in pain, united in purpose. The circle is all." When they finally removed the blindfold, my eyes took a moment to adjust. We were still in a circle, me, Shepard, with a swelling eye, and Marlowe looking strangely calm. But now there were more men, maybe 20, all wearing white masks, simple, expressionless, surrounding us. Crispin was unmasked. He held the bloody knife like a trophy. "Welcome, brothers," he said. "You are now part of something bigger, something ancient, something that transcends your meaningless individual lives." My palm burned. Blood dripped onto the floor. The wound in my chest throbbed. "The next phase begins now. We meet every night, 8 p.m. If you miss a night without permission, there are consequences. If you talk about this to anyone, there are consequences. Do you understand?" We nodded. What else could we do? "Good. Now go. We sell your wounds. Tomorrow we begin your true education." They let us go around midnight. Shepard ran off, still shirtless, disappearing into the rain. Marlowe walked calmly, as if this were normal. I stood shaking by my car for 10 minutes before I could insert the key. I drove home in shock, my palm bandaged with gauze that was already staining red, the cut on my chest burning under my shirt. I should have gone to the police. I should have reported everything. But Crispin's words echoed in my head. Consequences. And they didn't know where I lived. Or did they? I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in my apartment made me jump. What had I done? But the next morning, my phone had messages from the Circle's WhatsApp group that I didn't remember joining. "Welcome, Brother Dashel. See you tonight." And then, directly from Crispin, "Proud of you. Few have the courage to take the step. Tonight you will learn more. Be prepared." I went that night, and the next, because I was afraid of what would happen if I didn't go. The sessions changed. They were no longer support talks. They were training sessions. They made us do physical exercises until we collapsed. They yelled at us. They humiliated us. Breaking the ego, Crispin called it. Then they made us repeat mantras about loyalty, about strength, about how the circle was our only true family. And it worked. Horribly, it worked. Because when they break you down day after day and then rebuild you, you start to believe. You start to think that this is the only truth. 2 weeks passed, then 3. I lost my job. I missed too much. I was late. I couldn't concentrate. I didn't care. The circle said they would get jobs for loyal brothers. My family called. I didn't answer. Old friends from college sent messages. I ignored them. The circle said outside connections weakened us. Then came the night when it all became real in a way I couldn't deny. Tonight, Crispin announced at the session, you will witness justice from the circle. A brother betrayed his oath. He tried to leave. He spoke to people outside. They brought in a man. I recognized him, Shepard, the one who had been initiated with me. But he looked different now. Emaciated, terrified. He had an old black eye and fresh bruises on his arms. No, please, he pleaded. I just said I was in a book club. I didn't mention anything specific, I swear. Lies, Crispin said coldly. We have screenshots. You told your sister about the blood oath, about the masks. You broke your vow. Please, it was a mistake. Brothers, Crispin turned to us. There were maybe 15 of us now, including the veterans in masks. What is the punishment for treason? Pain, the voices chanted, including mine. God forgive me, including mine. Because that was what we had been trained to say. Pain, Crispin repeated. So Shepard will learn, and you will witness. So you will remember your own oath. They tied Shepard to a chair in the center of the circle. He was crying openly now. One of the big men, Breslin, pulled out what looked like a thick leather belt. 20 lashes, Crispin announced. Everyone will witness. If you close your eyes, you're next. It couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. The first blow echoed through the basement. Shepard screamed. The sound was animalistic. Pure pain. I wanted to close my eyes. I wanted to cover my ears. But one of the masked men was behind me. I felt his hands on my head, holding it in place, forcing me to watch. The second lash. The third. Shepard's shirt began to tear, skin beneath opening, blood staining the fabric. I covered my mouth to keep from vomiting, but one of them held my hands. Look at him, brother. This is what happens when you betray the circle. The smell. God, the smell. Sweat and fear and something metallic. Blood. The sound of skin tearing. Shepard's screams, growing weaker, hoarser, until they were just moans. 10 lashes. 15. 20. When it was over, Shepard hung unconscious, or dead, I couldn't tell. His back was a mass of torn flesh. He'll live, Crispin said casually. We'll keep him until he heals. Then he decides, remain with us completely loyal, or, well, there is no or. He turned to us. This is real brotherhood, not the soft lies of the outside world. We are a unit. One betrays, all suffer. But if you remain loyal, if you give everything to the circle, you will never be alone. You will never be lost. I felt nausea rising in my throat. I ran to a corner of the basement and vomited. Everything came out, my body rejecting what I had just witnessed. Dashiell. Crispin's voice was gentle now. He was standing next to me, one hand on my back. I know. It's hard the first time, but this is necessary. Shepard needed to learn, and you needed to see. This is wrong, I whispered. This isn't brotherhood. It's... What? Violence? Crispin laughed. The world is violent, Dashiell. It always has been. We're just honest about it. And we protect our own with that violence. Shepard betrayed us. There had to be consequences. I need to leave. I tried to walk toward the stairs. Two of the big men blocked my way. "You can't leave yet," Crispin said. "The session isn't over, and now that you've seen justice from the circle, you're even more deeply committed. If you go to the police, they'll ask why you waited, why you didn't report the initiation. You'll become an accomplice." He was right. Horribly, he was right. I had let weeks go by without saying anything. I had participated in the rituals. My silence made me guilty. "Sit down," Crispin ordered. "Finish the session. Then you can go home and process what you learned today." I sat down, because I had no choice. The rest of the session was Crispin talking about loyalty, about sacrifice, about how pain was necessary for growth. The words swirled around in my head. I couldn't concentrate. All I could see was Shepard's back. I could hear his screams. When they finally let us go, it was 2 a.m. They dragged Shepard, still unconscious, into a back room. I don't know what they did to him after that. I drove home on autopilot. I entered my apartment. I sat on the couch in the dark. I had to escape. I had to get out of the circle before I was the one tied to that chair. But how? They knew my name, my address. They must have known it after 3 weeks. My previous job, my family. And there were other brothers all over the city. How many? 10, 20, 100? I had no idea how big the circle really was. My phone vibrated. Group message. "Brother Dashel showed weakness tonight. Tomorrow, double physical training, 6 a.m., don't be late." Double training. Punishment for my reaction. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I was beyond tears. I just felt empty, as if something fundamental in me had broken. I didn't go to the 6 a.m. session. Instead, I started packing, clothes, important documents, some cash I had stashed away. Not much, enough to leave Seattle. My plan was simple: disappear, take a bus to another city, Portland maybe, or San Francisco, somewhere I could start over, delete my social media accounts, change my number, become a ghost. I was almost ready when I heard the knock on the door. "Dashel," Crispin's voice. "I know you're in there. Open up." I froze. How had he gotten there so fast? "Don't make me break down the door, brother. We just want to talk." We, plural. He wasn't alone. I considered climbing out the window. Second floor, maybe I could jump. But then I heard footsteps on the fire escape outside. They had me surrounded. I opened the door. Crispin was there with 4 others. Breslin and 3 I didn't recognize. All big. All blocking any escape. "Going somewhere?" Crispin saw the backpack. Dashel, did you really think you could just leave?" "I just need space. Time to process." "We all need space sometimes." Crispin walked into my apartment, uninvited. The others followed him. But brothers don't abandon brothers, especially not after witnessing justice. That's the time to get closer, not further away. I can't keep doing this. Doing what? Being part of something? Have purpose? Crispin sat down on my couch as if he owned the place. "You'd rather go back to being alone, miserable, lost?" "I'd rather not be part of torture." "That word," Crispin sighed. "Torture implies sadistic pleasure. We didn't enjoy Shepard's pain. It was necessary, bitter medicine." "That's what? Insane?" Crispin stood up, closing the distance between us. "Dashel, the world brainwashed you with ideas that all violence is bad. But violence built civilizations. Violence protects what matters. And the circle uses violence with purpose, not whim." "I can't agree with..." His hand moved so fast I didn't see it coming. The blow knocked me to the floor. My cheek exploded in pain. "You don't need to agree," Crispin said coldly. "You just need to obey. As a sworn brother. As a man of your word." Breslin lifted me off the floor as if I weighed nothing. He held me while Crispin looked at me. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay in Seattle. You're going to come to the sessions. You're going to participate fully. And if you try to leave again, if you even think about betraying the circle, you'll end up like Shepard. Or worse. You can't force me. Can't. Crispin smiled. It was horrible. We already did. When we cut your palm, when we mixed blood, when you witnessed justice and didn't go to the police, you're already part of this. You're already guilty. He was right. God, he was right. Now, Crispin patted my sore cheek. Unpack. Rest. Tomorrow is a normal session, 8 p.m. You will arrive early and apologize to the brothers for your weakness. They left, all of them, leaving me trembling in my apartment that no longer felt safe. I spent that night awake, watching the door, jumping at every sound. Every car that passed could be them. Every creak in the building could be someone breaking in. At 6 a.m., I made a decision. I couldn't go to the police. They would make me an accomplice, maybe arrest me, but I could escape. I had to escape. I waited until noon when I assumed they wouldn't be watching so closely. I left my apartment, leaving everything except the essential backpack. I didn't take my car. Too traceable. I walked to the bus station. The rain had returned. Seattle being Seattle. I hid under my hood, walking fast but not running. I didn't want to attract attention. I was 2 blocks from the station when I felt it. That twinge between my shoulder blades that tells you you're being watched. I turned around. No one was obviously following me. But in a coffee shop across the street, a man in a hoodie. Looking at his phone. Too casual. I quickened my pace. One of them had seen me. How many more were there? The bus station was ahead. I went inside. I bought a ticket with cash for the next bus leaving, Portland, in 30 minutes. I sat in the waiting area, trying to become invisible among the other travelers. A mother with a small child, an elderly man sleeping on his luggage, a young couple kissing, everything normal. Then I saw her. One of the masked women, except now without a mask. I recognized her from the night before. Woman, 30-something, short hair, entering the station, scanning. I got up, walking toward the bathroom. I needed to hide until the bus arrived. The bathroom was small, dirty. I locked myself in a stall, breathing heavily, trying to think. My phone vibrated. Message from an unknown number. We see you, Dashiell. You think you can run. You can't. Attached photo of me, 5 minutes ago, walking toward the station. They were tracking me. My phone. It had to be. I turned it off, wrapped it in paper towel. I'd read somewhere that blocked signals. Stupid, probably, but it was all I had. I waited in that filthy bathroom for 20 minutes, listening to bus announcements. Finally mine. Bus 47 to Portland, last call. I went out, ran to the platform. The bus was there, door open, engine running, and Crispin was standing by the door. Going somewhere, brother. My world stopped. How? How had he gotten there so fast? I have a family meeting in Portland. Emergency. Liar. Crispin blocked my way. Your parents are in Florida. We checked. You have no family in Portland. Other passengers began to notice. The tension, the bus driver watching. Sir, I said to the driver, this man is harassing me. Call the police. The driver hesitated. Crispin smiled. I'm his therapist, Crispin said to the driver. His voice was professional, concerned. Paranoid schizophrenia. He stopped taking his medication. Family hired me to bring him back. He's lying, I shouted. He's part of... See, Crispin said to the driver. Delusions. He thinks there's a conspiracy against him. This happens every time he stops his treatment. The driver looked uncertain. Other passengers were murmuring. No one knew who to believe. I have documentation, Crispin continued, pulling out papers that looked official. Fake. They had to be fake, but convincing. No, please. My voice came out weak, desperate. And then I saw my chance. A group of teenagers entering the station, noisy, distracted. I ran, through them, using their confusion as cover. Dashiell, I heard Crispin shout, footsteps behind me. I left the station. Rain pelting me. I didn't know where to go. I just ran. Through streets I didn't recognize. Through alleys. My lungs burning. Legs like jelly. The footsteps behind me multiplying. Not just Crispin. Others. How many? I turned into an alley. Mistake. Dead end. Trash cans and a high fence. I turned around, 5 of them blocking the entrance, Crispin in front, smiling like a predator who had cornered his prey. "We can't do this here," Breslin said. "Too public." "It doesn't matter," Crispin replied. "He's already run away twice. He needs to learn." They closed in. I backed up until I hit the fence. "Please," I whispered. "Just let me go. I promise I won't say anything. I just want to leave." "There's no leaving, Dashiell. We told you. The circle is forever." And then, sirens. Distant but getting closer. The 5 of them froze. Looking down the street, calculating. "Shit," one of them cursed. "Someone must have called." "Let's go," Crispin ordered. But before he left, he looked at me. "This isn't over. We'll find you. We always find you." They disappeared into the rain. Seconds later, a police car drove down the alley. I collapsed, knees on the wet ground, sobbing, with relief, with terror, with the realization that he was right. They would find me. Always. I made it to the train station that night. I bought a ticket to Los Angeles, far away, as far as I could go with the cash I had. During the entire trip, I didn't sleep. Every person on the train could be one of them. Every stop could be where they were waiting for me. I arrived in LA 3 days later. The train stopped in every small town. I found a cheap hostel in a sketchy neighborhood. I paid cash. I gave a fake name, and there I stayed, for weeks, barely going out, living off vending machine food, letting my beard grow, trying to change my appearance. But I couldn't stay forever. The money was running out. I got a job in a restaurant, under the table, washing dishes. The manager didn't ask any questions. He needed workers, and I was willing. A month went by, then 2. I started to think that maybe I was safe, that maybe they couldn't find me in a city of millions. Then the email arrived, my old email that I hadn't checked in weeks. I'd opened a new account, left everything old behind. But out of curiosity, stupid curiosity, I opened it on a library computer. One email. Sender. The Circle. Subject. New season. I opened it with trembling hands. "Dear Brother Dashiell, it's been months. We hoped that time would give you perspective, that you would understand that the Circle is your home, but it seems you are still lost, still running. That changes now. The new season of initiations begins in April, and you, dear brother, have been selected for a special role. You will no longer be a brother. You will be an example. See you soon. Crispin P.S. Los Angeles is beautiful this time of year. Morisco's restaurant on 6th Street makes excellent dishes. You should try their ceviche. We hear the employees there work very hard. P.P.S. Ready to hunt." The screen blurred. I couldn't breathe. They knew where I was. They knew where I worked. They had been watching me all this time. I ran out of the library, back to the hostel. I grabbed my backpack, always ready, never completely unpacked. And now I'm here, in a different motel. In a different neighborhood, writing this because someone has to know if I disappear, if they find me, if I end up tied to that chair. Someone has to know about the Circle, about Crispin, about the men in white masks who turn loneliness into a weapon. My phone vibrates. New number. Unrecognized. I don't want to look at it, but I have to. A message. A photo. It's me, now, in this motel, taken from the window, and underneath. "Welcome home, brother. The game starts in an hour." I returned to the village for the funeral, thinking it would be closure. My Aunt Saffron hugged me at the church door and whispered in my ear, "You've come home, daughter of fire." I smiled, chalking it up to old age and grief. She was 68 and had just lost her sister. But the look in her eyes when she pulled away was possessive, as if she were claiming me rather than comforting me. My name is Velvet, 43 years old, divorced, no children, living in Portland where no one knew where I came from. And I liked it that way. I had left Ashworth, Montana, that tiny town in the middle of nowhere, when I was 18, fleeing to college on a scholarship and never looking back. My mother and I talked on the phone every 3 months, brief, tense conversations where she asked when I would visit and I made up excuses. Now she was dead. Massive heart attack, they told me. They found her in her bed, peaceful, 57 years old, too young. But the Muller family had always died young. My grandmother at 52, my great-grandmother at 49. Faulty genetics, I assumed. The funeral was small. Ashworth only had 300 residents, and half of them were family. Uncles, cousins, second cousins. That whole extended network I vaguely remembered from my childhood. Faces I had forgotten. Names that got mixed up. My Uncle Corbin, Mom's brother, a tall, thin man with long gray hair, gave the eulogy. He talked about how my mother had been devoted to the end, about her sacrifice for the family, words that sounded strange for the woman I remembered. Mom had been quiet, withdrawn, always with a sadness that never completely dissipated. After the service, at the reception in the family home, that old 2-story farmhouse with peeling paint, Saffron took my arm. "We need to talk to you, honey. About your mother. About the property. The property. The house. The land. Your inheritance." Her eyes sparkled. "But first, the private wake. Tonight. Family only." "Private wake. We just had the funeral. Family tradition." Saffron squeezed my arm. "Your mother would have wanted it. We need to honor her properly, as has always been done." Something twisted in my stomach, but I nodded. It was what was expected, wasn't it? The daughter respecting family traditions, however strange they might be. The house emptied around 6. The non-family neighbors left, leaving only the Mullers. I counted maybe 15 people. Uncle Corbin, Aunt Saffron, my cousin Thaddeus, a burly guy in his 30s, with tattoos of symbols I didn't recognize. My cousin Nephilim, thin and pale, staring at me with uncomfortable intensity. Others whose faces I knew, but whose names I had forgotten. "Sit down, Velvet," Corbin said, pointing to the sofa in the living room. "You must be exhausted." Saffron made tea. Saffron appeared with a tray, porcelain cups filled with dark liquid that smelled of herbs. She handed me one. "Drink up, sweetie. It's our special recipe. It helps with the pain." The tea tasted bitter with a hint of honey. I drank it out of politeness, feeling everyone's eyes on me. Conversation flowed around me. Memories of my mother, family stories, normal, mundane. But I started to feel strange, dizzy. The room tilted gently. Voices sounded distant, as if I were underwater. "Are you okay?" Nephili's voice sounded muffled. I think I need to lie down. The trip, the stress." "Of course." Corbin was standing. "We'll take you upstairs." Hands helped me up. My legs were jelly. The world spun at the edges. We climbed stairs, or I thought they were the stairs to the bedrooms. But we kept going down. Down. When had the house had so many steps? "Where?" My tongue was thick. "Shh," Saffron's voice. "Almost there." And then nothing. Black. I woke up with panic exploding in my chest like a wild animal. I couldn't move. My wrist burned, tied with thick rope to something behind me, my ankles too. I was sitting in a wooden chair in the center of a basement. Damp stone walls, no windows, candles everywhere, dozens of them, creating dancing shadows, and symbols. Painted on the walls with something dark and viscous. They weren't letters, they were shapes, pentagrams, circles, things that looked like they were taken from cheap horror movies about Satanism. "She's awake." I turned my head so fast my neck cracked. Thaddeus was there, standing in the shadows watching me. What's going on?" My voice came out hoarse, terrified. "Your baptism." He stepped out of the shadows. He was wearing a robe, a fucking black robe like something out of a movie. "Welcome back to the family, cousin." "Let me go. Let me go now." "I can't do that." He moved closer. In his hand, something metallic glinted in the candlelight. A brand. A branding iron with a symbol on the tip, and the tip glowed red. It was hot. Panic hit me like a punch. I pulled at the ropes, ignoring how they dug into my skin. No. Please. No. This is necessary. His voice was calm, practical. Every Muller bears the mark. It is your birthright. I don't want any rights. Let me go. Others came down the stairs, all in robes. Corbin, Saffron, Nefele. Others I didn't recognize under their hoods. They formed a circle around me. Brothers and sisters, Corbin announced, his voice echoing in the basement. We gathered to reclaim the lost daughter. Velvet Muller, blood of our blood, who abandoned the flock, but now returns, as was prophesied. I didn't come back. I came for the funeral. Let me go. Your mother called you, Corbin continued, as if I hadn't spoken. Her final offering was to bring you back, and here you are. My mind raced. Final offering. What did that mean? I don't understand, I said, trying to sound calm, even though I was terrified. Uncle Corbin, whatever this is, we can talk. You don't have to. Silence. His hand rose. You are not the one who speaks tonight. You are the one who listens, who learns, who accepts your place. Thaddeus approached with the mark. Heat radiated from it. I could feel it even from a distance. This will seal your commitment, he said, as it was sealed for your mother, and her mother, and all the Muller daughters before you. No, I screamed, trying to move the chair, to throw myself off, anything. But I was tied too tightly. He grabbed my left arm. He tore the sleeve of my blouse, my skin exposed and vulnerable. The iron came closer. Then Saffron spoke. Wait. Thaddeus stopped. First you must understand, Saffron said, walking toward me. First you must know what the Muller family is, what power we possess, what you have rejected your entire life. I don't care, I sobbed. I just want to leave. Your mother said the same thing. Saffron knelt in front of me. When she was your age, when her mother, your grandmother, was offered, Diana wanted to run away too, just like you did. Offered to the master. Saffron smiled. It was the coldest smile I had ever seen. Every generation, one Muller is chosen, to ascend, to feed the master with her life essence, and in return, those who remain receive rewards, wealth, power, connections. My stomach churned. Are you saying murder? They murder family members. Not murder. Sacrifice. Voluntary. No one voluntarily agrees to die. Your mother did. Corbin joined in. When she saw you wouldn't return of your own accord. When she realized the Muller bloodline would be diluted without your return. She drank the tea. She lay down on her bed. She ascended peacefully. Horror washed over me like a cold wave. You killed her. You killed my mother. She offered herself, Corbin corrected, to bring you back. The master accepted the trade. One life for another recovered for the flock. There is no master, I whispered. This is just psychopathic bullshit. You are murderers dressed up as a cult. Cult? Saffron laughed. Oh dear. We don't worship anything. The master is simply our name for the agreement, the tradition that holds the Muller family together. That makes us powerful, rich, respected in this region. Agreement? With whom? With ourselves. Corbin smiled. The symbols, the robes, the Satanism, it's all theater. To scare, to control, to make the weak obey while the strong prosper. Your mother was weak, like your grandmother. But you, what about me? You left. You resisted. That means strength. And the Muller family needs strength. He leaned close, his hot breath on my face. So here's your choice, Velvet. You accept the mark. You accept your place in the family. We teach you how everything works. The properties we control, the businesses, the inheritance money we consolidate when someone is offered up. Or what? Or you become the next offering, tonight, and we find another distant Muller to recruit. The air left my lungs. There was no escape, There was no real choice. It was join them or die. I need time to think. There is no time. Corbin straightened up. The baptism is now. Thaddeus. Thaddeus raised the iron again. He moved closer to my arm. Wait, I shouted. I accept, okay? Just don't brand me like cattle. The brand is part of the baptism, Thaddeus said, non-negotiable. The iron touched my skin. The pain was instant, blinding, as if my arm was on fire. I howled. I couldn't help it. The sound that came out of me was animalistic, pure suffering. The smell of burning flesh filled the air, my own flesh. Tears streamed down my face as Thaddeus finally withdrew the iron. It left a mark, a symbol that looked like a distorted star with lines through it. The skin around it was red, blistered, screaming in agony. Welcome, sister, they said in unison, as if they had rehearsed it. I blacked out. From the pain, from the shock, I don't know. When I came to, I was still tied up, but someone had bandaged my arm. The pain throbbed. Constant and vicious. Phase 2, Corbin announced. Confession. What? You must confess your sins against the family, your abandonment, your rejection, your arrogance in thinking you were better than us. I'm not going to... The blow came out of nowhere. Saffron, with a leather belt coiled in her hand, she struck me across the back. The pain exploded, sharp and burning even through my blouse. Confess, Saffron ordered. Fuck you. Another blow. And another. The leather biting through the fabric, finding skin. Each impact was thunder on my back, pain radiating in waves. Confess your arrogance. I tried to resist. I tried to remain silent. But after the 10th blow, something in me broke. Okay, I confess. I thought I was better. I left you and didn't look back. And what else? Another blow, harder. I was glad to leave. I hated this town. I hated this family. The blows continued. 20, 30. I lost count. My back was pure fire. Every nerve ending screamed. And through my tears and sobs, I saw them. Their faces. There was no hatred there. There was no anger. There was ecstasy. They were enjoying this. Every scream, every plea, every confession extracted through pain. It fed them. It excited them. They were my blood. My family. And they were breaking my soul. Finally, Saffron stopped. He was breathing heavily, sweat on his forehead. His belt dripped. My blood. Enough for tonight, Corbin said. Let her rest. Tomorrow we begin her proper education. They untied me. My legs wouldn't hold me. I collapsed onto the cold basement floor. Someone threw me an old blanket that smelled of mold. The bathroom is in that corner, Nafeel pointed to a bucket. Food tomorrow, if you behave. They left. All of them. They went upstairs. I heard the lock click from outside. I lay there, shivering under the blanket, every movement agony. My arm throbbed. My back felt like ground beef. And in the darkness, the candles had burned out. I cried. Not because of the physical pain, though it was unbearable. I cried for my mother, for all the Mullers before her, trapped in this cycle of abuse disguised as tradition, of power disguised as family. And I cried because part of me, a horrible small part, understood why my mother had never left, why none of them had. The fear wasn't just of violence, it was of being completely alone, of losing the only connection however sick it was, of being the one sacrificed. But I wouldn't be like them. I couldn't be. I waited. In that darkness, listening. The house eventually fell silent upstairs. They must have gone to bed. It must have been past midnight. The ropes that had tied me were on the floor near me, thick, rough. An idea formed, desperate, probably stupid. But it was all I had. I crawled, every movement agony, toward where I remembered the door was. My hands found the wooden stairs. I climbed them silently, ignoring the pain screaming in my back. The door was locked from the outside. But it was old. The wood around the lock was soft, rotted from years of basement dampness. I used the rope. I wrapped it around my hands for protection, then began to hit where the lock connected to the frame. Softly at first, then harder when nothing moved. Each blow echoed. Too loud, it would surely wake them. But I had no choice. Blow after blow, my hands bleeding through the rope, my arms shaking from the effort. And then, crack. The wood gave way. The lock was still closed, but the frame had broken enough to create a gap. I pushed. The door opened a few inches. Enough. I slipped through, skin scraping against splintered wood. I emerged in the kitchen, dark, silent. I had no shoes. They had been taken from me. I had no phone, taken from my bag, but the back door was there, waiting. I tiptoed, each step of my bare feet whispering on the linoleum. My hand found the doorknob. I turned, locked. I needed a key, panic rising. Where would they keep the keys? I groped around in the dark. Countertops. Drawers I didn't dare open for fear of making noise. Then I saw them. On a hook by the door. So obvious I almost laughed. It would have been hysterical. I grabbed the keys. I tried 3 before finding the right one. The click of the lock opening was the most beautiful sound. I stepped out into the Montana night. Cold April air hitting me. But it was fresh air, freedom. I ran, barefoot on wet grass, then on gravel from the driveway that cut my feet. I didn't care. I just ran. The Muller property was large, 5 acres of land surrounding the house, trees, fields, an old barn. I ran toward the trees, thinking I could hide, get to the road beyond. Then I heard shouting behind me. She got away. Turn on the lights. Lights came on, powerful, flooding the property, and flashlights, multiple, converging from the house. Velvet, Corbin's voice. There's nowhere to go. The property's fenced in. You'll only hurt yourself more. But I kept running. Toward the trees, the forest that bordered the property. If I could get there, if I could get to the other side where the road was, maybe someone would pass by. Maybe I could ask for help. Branches scratching my skin, roots trying to trip me, my feet bleeding, leaving a trail. But I kept going. The flashlights behind me, multiple, spreading out to cover more ground. Over here, I see her footprints. Thaddeus's voice, too close. The forest was dense, dark, only the partial moonlight guiding me. I stumbled, falling hard, my hands cutting on rocks. I got up, ignoring the pain. I kept going, and then I saw the fence, tall, barbed wire on top, surrounding the property like Corbin had said, but close, meant boundary. And beyond the boundary was the road. I could see it, a gray line through the trees. I looked at the fence, 10 feet high. Barbed wire on top meant climbing would cut my hands to shreds. The lights were getting closer, voices calling my name, as if I were lost cattle. I had no choice. I started climbing, cold metal against my bleeding hands, feet finding footholds in the pattern of the wire, up, inch by inch, the barbed wire waiting. There, a flashlight finding me. On the fence, I reached the top, the barbed wire. There was no way around it, so I didn't try. I threw myself over the wire, feeling it tear, my shirt, my skin, my hair catching, sharp pain shooting across my scalp. But momentum carried me over. I fell on the other side, landing hard on the ground, my ankle twisting. More pain added to the collection, but I was on the other side, off Mueller property. I got up, limping, toward the road. Only 50 yards. The voices behind the fence, frustrated, angry. He can't get far. Go around the gate. The gate. They had cars. They would catch me on the road, but I kept limping, toward the asphalt, toward civilization. I reached the road, empty. I looked up at the sky, estimating maybe 3 a.m. There was no traffic. Where to? The town was 5 miles north, too far to run with a bad ankle and shattered feet, and the town was Mueller. Everyone was in on the secret or complicit through silence. South then, toward the highway. Further, 10 miles maybe. But there would be traffic. Truckers. Someone who could help. I started walking. Running, an awkward combination that exacerbated the pain but was faster than walking alone. Behind me, I heard engines, headlights appearing in the distance, coming from the north, from the Mueller Gate. I left the road toward the trees on the side, hiding, watching, 2 pickup trucks, driving slowly, searching. They passed my position. I held my breath until they disappeared to the south. They waited 5 minutes. Then I returned to the road and continued. The next 2 hours were the longest of my life. Walking, limping down an empty road. The night cold seeping into my bones. Every sound, every nocturnal animal, every gust of wind making me jump. The pickups passed twice more, searching. Each time I hid, trembling in the weeds, praying they wouldn't see me. As the sky began to lighten, dawn approaching, I finally saw something beautiful. Lights from the highway, and a sign, I-90, 1 mile. 1 mile. I could do 1 mile. I crawled the last few yards. I climbed the access ramp to the highway. And there, beautiful and ordinary, I saw traffic, trucks, cars. I stood on the shoulder, raising my arm, the one that wasn't bruised. Hitchhiking like a desperate homeless person. 3 vehicles passed. Then a big truck stopped. A Peterbilt with a trailer. The driver rolled down his window. A man in his 50s, friendly face. "Miss, are you okay? You look. Please," my voice came out hoarse from shouting. "Please take me away from here. There are people who hurt me. I need to go to the police." His face changed to concern. "Get in. There's a police station in Billings. I'll take you there." I climbed into the cab. The interior smelled of coffee and pine. Normal. Safe. As the truck pulled away, I turned to look back toward Ashworth, back toward the Mueller property that I couldn't see from here but knew was there. And I swore by everything that I would never go back. The truck driver, his name was Dale, took me to Billings. He bought me coffee at a gas station. He let me use his phone. I didn't call the police yet. First, I called my friend Zafira in Portland. I told her everything. She told me to take the next flight. Then I called the Billings police. I told them about Ashworth, about the Muellers, about my mother. They came. They took pictures of my injuries, the mark on my arm, the cuts from the barbed wire, my broken back. They took my statement. They promised to investigate. But I saw it in their eyes. Skepticism. An entire family involved in organized crime disguised as a satanic cult in a small town in Montana. It sounded like a delusional conspiracy theory. "We'll look into it," they said. But these things take time. Time. Time the Muellers would use to hide evidence, to align their stories, to possibly dispose of the bodies. How many were there, really? How many offerings over the years? Zephyr arrived that afternoon. She took me to the hospital. They treated my injuries. The burn mark would eventually need a skin graft. The whip cuts would leave scars. The scalp where the barbed wire had torn out clumps of hair would take time to heal. But I survived. I returned to Portland with Zephyra. I left Montana in the rearview mirror. 2 weeks later, the detectives contacted me. They had gone to Ashworth. They had questioned the Muellers. They all denied everything. The basement was clean. No candles, no symbols, no evidence. Just storage, they said. The robes, if they ever existed, were gone. My mother was cremated before the funeral. No body to autopsy. No evidence of poisoning. It was my word against 15 of theirs. And in a town where the Muellers were the dominant family, who was going to believe the outsider? Without physical evidence, the detectives told me, "We can't proceed. I'm sorry." Case closed. The Muellers free. But at least I was out. At least I had escaped. The first few weeks back, I jumped at every sound. Every unfamiliar car on my street could be them. Every call from an unknown number could be Corbin. Every shadow at my window could be Thaddeus. I changed my number. I changed the locks. I bought a security system. Eventually, I moved into an apartment in a secure building with a doorman. And slowly, with therapy and time, I began to heal. But still, at night, in the dark, when sleep is slow to come, I hear their voices. Daughter of fire, welcome home, blood of our blood, calling me, as if they still had the right, as if I still belonged to them. And I know with horrible certainty that they're not done, that somewhere in that shitty town in Montana they continue, finding new victims, offer up the weak, using fear and tradition in the facade of the occult to mask simple, horrible greed. And someday, maybe they'll find another distant Muller, another cousin I don't know, and they'll tell her about her heritage and lure her back, and the cycle will continue, because that's how the Muller family works. Blood, pain, and the theater of horror to keep everyone in line. I'm never going back. Never. But sometimes, when I look at the ugly burn mark on my arm, the one that no graft has been able to completely hide, I remember, and I tremble. I was alone in my room scrolling through Reddit at 3 a.m. when a DM changed everything. Want real power? Join the Forum of the Forgotten. I thought it was roleplay, another internet game to pass the sleepless nights during lockdown, but their messages, they understood me too well. My name is Lysander. 17 years old. I live in Austin, Texas with my mom, who worked double shifts as a nurse during the pandemic. My dad left when I was 8. I had no real friends, just mutuals on Discord I'd never met in person. Online school was a joke. I spent 16 hours a day in my room, in the dark, with only the blue light from my monitor illuminating my face. It was March 2021. We had been locked down for a year of watching the world collapse through screens, and I was empty. As if every day were a repeat of the one before. Wake up, Zoom classes I ignored, gaming until my eyes burned, sleep, repeat. Then the message came. The user was called Shepherd Avoid. Their profile had no history, new account, no posts, no comments, just that DM. Do you want real power? I should have ignored it. I should have blocked them, but I replied. What kind of power? The reply was immediate. The power to understand yourself, to be seen, to matter. Words that struck something deep, because that was exactly what I wanted. To be seen, to matter. How? I typed. The Forum of the Forgotten, for those society has left behind. Join us. Learn. Transform. He sent me a link, a onion URL, deep web. I would need Tor to access it. What is this? I asked. Some kind of cult? Cult implies blind belief. We offer open eyes, clarity, power over your own existence. Something in me, curiosity, boredom, desperation, made me download Tor. I copied the link. I waited while it loaded. The forum was simple. Minimalist design, black with red text, sections, introduction, philosophy, rituals, testimonials, recruitment. I clicked on introduction. A long text about how society had been designed to make us weak, how we had been taught to be victims, to accept mediocrity, how true power came from rejecting that programming. It sounded like edgy internet philosophy, Nietzsche for teenagers, but I kept reading. The rituals section was strange. It talked about challenges to prove commitment, things like record a video confessing your greatest fear, share a photo of your deepest scar, physical or emotional, write a letter to someone who hurt you, but never send it, burn it, and share the ashes. Pretentious performance art, I thought. But some of the testimonials were intense. People, anonymous usernames, telling how the forum had saved them, how they had found purpose, community, family. I spent 3 hours reading. When I finally closed my browser, it was 6 a.m. Dawn light was filtering through my window, and I felt something. For the first time in months, I felt something. I returned to the forum the next night, and the next. I started participating, commenting on threads, completing some of the minor challenges, Harmless things like writing about my childhood, sharing music that moved me. Shepard Avoid sent me DMs regularly, personal questions about my family, my loneliness, my fears. And I answered, because finally, someone was listening. Someone cared. "Your mother works a lot," he wrote one night. "It must be lonely." "Yes, I hardly ever see her." "What about friends?" "Not really, just people online." "Then you understand what it's like to be forgotten, invisible." "Totally. That's why you're here, because you recognize that you deserve more, that you're special, Lysander." He used my name, my real name, not my username. "How do you know my name?" I wrote, my pulse racing. "You shared it. In your introduction challenge. Don't you remember?" Had I? I checked my posts. Shit. Yes. I had mentioned my name in one of my emotional responses. Oh, yeah, forget it. There's no forgetting here, Lysander. Here, we're honest, vulnerable. It's the only way to grow. Weeks passed. I got more deeply involved. The challenges became more intense. They asked me to record a video talking about my greatest shame, the fact that my father had left because I wasn't good enough. I uploaded it to a private server on the forum. They asked me to share photos of my room, my sacred space. I did. They asked me to write about my darkest fantasies, the things I would never tell anyone, and I wrote them because I felt safe, anonymous. Then, after 2 months, the message that changed everything arrived. Lysander, you have proven your commitment to the philosophy. Now it is time to meet the brothers in person for your initiation. My stomach churned. In person. I thought this was only online. Digital is just the beginning. True power comes from physical community, from rituals that cannot be done through screens. I don't know. Are you afraid? It's normal. We all were. But on the other side of fear is transformation. Where would it be? Austin. You're in luck. We have a chapter there. This Saturday, 11 p.m., Zilker Park, north side near the abandoned volleyball courts. Why so late? Privacy. We don't want onlookers, only those who are committed. I should have said no. Every instinct told me not to go, but I had invested so much. And the idea of finally meeting people who understood me, of being part of something real. Okay, I'll be there. On Saturday, I told my mom I was going for a walk. Not unusual. I sometimes went out at night when I couldn't sleep. She didn't even look up from her phone, exhausted from her shift. I took the bus to Zilker. The park was dark, officially closed after sunset. I jumped the low fence. I walked toward the volleyball courts, my heart pounding. They were there. 6 figures, hooded, standing in a circle under the trees. Lysander. A voice. Male. I didn't recognize it. Yes. Welcome, brother. They approached. I could see faces partially under the hoods. Men, mostly. One who looked to be in his 30s, others younger, 20s maybe. Shepard has spoken well of you, said the oldest. He says you're ready. Ready for what? Your initiation. Your transformation from forgotten to remembered. It sounded ridiculous. Teenagers playing at being a secret society. But something in their eyes, an intensity that was no game, made me nervous. What does that involve? First, verification. One of them, a skinny guy in his 20s with piercings, took something out of his pocket. A photo, printed. It was my profile picture, the one I had uploaded to the forum. To make sure you are who you say you are, he explained. My stomach twisted. Something about seeing my digital photo printed out, in the hands of strangers, in a dark park. Yes, that's me. Good. The older guy smiled. It wasn't comforting. Now you come with us. Where? To the temple, where the initiation takes place. Temple. I thought this was philosophy, not religion. It's metaphorical, brother. Relax. But I couldn't relax, because suddenly the 6 of them surrounded me. Closer. Too close. and the older guy took out his phone. "Just one more thing. We need your phone for security. Protocol." "My phone? Why?" "We don't want locations tracked, or you recording without permission. We'll give it back later." Everything in me screamed to run, but I was surrounded. And part of me, the part that had invested months in this, wanted to believe I was overreacting. "Okay." I took out my phone. I gave it to him. The guy turned it off. He put it in his pocket. "Now get in the vehicle." He pointed to the parking lot. There was a van, white, no windows on the sides. The kind of vehicle that always means trouble in movies. "I don't know if—" "Lysander." The older guy put a hand on my shoulder, heavy, firm. "You've come this far. Are you going to back out now? Are you going to be forgotten again?" The pressure, the manipulation. I saw it, but it affected me too. I don't want to be forgotten. "Then come." They guided me, almost pushed me, toward the van. The back door opened. It was dark inside. It smelled of stale cigarettes and something chemical. "Get in," ordered the guy with the piercings. I climbed in. Two of them got in with me. They sat on either side. The others closed the door. I heard front doors opening, the engine starting, and we began to move. In the darkness of the van, my breathing sounded too loud. The two men on either side of me didn't speak. They just waited. "How much longer?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Soon." The trip felt like hours, but it was probably only 30 minutes. Finally, we stopped. The back door opened. We were in an industrial district. Old warehouses. Everything closed at this hour. Only a distant street lamp provided light. "Out." I got out. My legs were unsteady. They led me to one of the warehouses. The door was unlocked. Inside, more darkness, the smell of dampness and rusty metal. "This way." Lights came on, temporary ones hanging from cables, illuminating a space that had been prepared. In the center, a chair with straps. My heart stopped. What is that?" "Your throne, brother, for the ceremony." No, this isn't what I thought. I'm leaving." I turned toward the door, but there were more of them now. How many? 8, 10 maybe, blocking the exit. "You can't leave yet," said the older guy. "We know where you live, kid." Terror paralyzed me. "What?" 2847 Barton Springs Road, apartment 12B. "Your mother is Meadow Chen, nurse at St. David's. Night shift Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday." Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. "How?" "You shared a lot, Lysander, in your confessions, in your challenges, pieces we put together, and we verified, because we needed to be sure you were suitable." "Suitable for what?" "To be ours." They grabbed me, multiple hands. They dragged me to the chair. I fought, kicked, screamed, but there were too many. They pushed me into the chair. Hands held my wrists while someone secured the straps. "No, let me go. Help, help." "Scream all you want," the older guy said calmly. "We're miles from anyone, and your voice doesn't leave these walls." The straps were tight. Wrists, ankles, chest. I couldn't move. Panic was total, consuming me like fire. "What are you going to do?" "Show you something." He took out a laptop. He opened it. He turned the screen toward me. It was a video, loading. Then it started playing, and it was me, on the screen, sitting in my room, talking to the camera. "My name is Lysander Chen," my voice said, "and I want to confess something." But I had never recorded this. I had never said, "I've been planning to hurt people," the video me continued. "I have lists, names from my school, from my neighborhood, and I have weapons. My stepfather has guns. I know where he keeps them." "What the hell?" I whispered, horror growing. "Nice, isn't it?" The older guy smiled. "Deep fake. He took your confession videos, your photos, your voice from all those hours talking on the forum. AI can do wonders now. This video is completely fake, but who would know? It looks completely real." You can't. We can. And we will. If you don't cooperate, this video will be sent to your school, to the police, to your mother. Your life will be over. You'll be the next school shooter arrested before you could act. Or so everyone will think. Tears streamed down my face. Why are you doing this? Because we can. Because finding lonely, vulnerable kids online is easy. Because society has already forgotten them. So no one notices when they disappear into our circle. Circle? What circle? Welcome to the real forgotten. It's not philosophy, Lysander. It's business. We create content, videos, photos of kids like you in compromising situations, and we sell them. The dark web has markets for everything. The horror was so complete that for a moment I couldn't process it. Content. They were going to do things to me, record it, sell it. No, please. But first, he continued, we need to secure your loyalty, your mark. Someone lit something in the corner, a blowtorch, heating metal, an iron, with a symbol on the tip that began to glow red. No, please. I'll do whatever you want, just don't. Exactly. You'll do whatever we want, and the brand ensures that. Besides, he took out his phone, preparing the camera. It makes for good content. Customers like to see initiations, markings. Fear is valuable. The guy with the iron approached. The heat radiated from him even from a distance. My skin bristled in anticipation. Please, I sobbed. I'm 17. I'm a minor. This is illegal. They laughed. Everything we do is illegal, kid. That's the point. The iron approached my forearm. I could feel the heat. My skin hurt even before contact, and then it touched me. The pain was, there are no words. It was as if every nerve in my arm exploded simultaneously. I howled. The sound that came out of me was animalistic, inhuman, pure suffering. The hiss of my skin burning. The smell, sweet and nauseating, of flesh cooking. Worse than the pain was the click of the camera, the knowledge that this was being recorded. That my agony would be entertainment for monsters in some corner of the internet. When they finally removed the iron, I was hyperventilating, tears and snot running down my face. The mark was a symbol. It looked like an inverted star with strange lines, burned into my skin, the flesh around it red, blistering. Beautiful, said the older guy, reviewing the recording. The customers will love this. What's next? I managed to ask between sobs. Now you rest. Let that heal a little. And tomorrow? Well, tomorrow we start the real production. They untied me. For a crazy second, I thought they would let me go, but they dragged me to another part of the warehouse. A small room, no windows, door locked from the outside, a dirty mattress on the floor, a bucket in the corner. Your new home, one of them said. Get used to it. They pushed me inside. The door closed. The lock clicked. I was left in total darkness. The pain in my arm throbbed constant. I curled up on the mattress that smelled of dampness and worse, and I cried. How long was I there? I lost count. There was no natural light. There was no clock. Only darkness and pain. They brought food once, stale bread and bottled water. One of them, the young one with piercings, opened the door briefly. Eat. You need strength. For what? You'll see. The door closed again. I tried to think. Escape? How? The door was locked. No windows. And even if I escaped this room, there were 10 of them in the warehouse. Help? My phone was with them. No one knew where I was. My mom probably thought I was at home. My bedroom door closed as usual. How long before she noticed I was gone? Panic consumed me. But I forced my mind to work. There had to be something, some way. I don't know how long after, hours, days, the door opened again. This time there were 3 of them, including the older guy. Showtime, Lysander. They dragged me outside, back to the main area of the warehouse. They had set up lights, cameras, A bed with sheets that looked too clean for this place. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no. Relax. Just photos today, posing. Nothing invasive. Yet." They pushed me toward the bed. They told me to lie down. One held a professional camera. Another directed the lights. "Take off your shirt." "No." "Lysander." The older guy's voice was dangerously calm. "Cooperate, or we show the deepfake video to your mother tonight." Imagine her receiving that video of her son confessing to planning a school shooting. The horror, the betrayal. It would destroy everything she thinks of you. My hands shook as I took off my shirt. The mark on my arm was visible, red and swollen. Perfect. That looks good on camera. The next, I don't know how long, positions, photos, directing me as if I were a model in a professional shoot, except that everything was poisonous. Wrong. Each click of the camera was another piece of evidence they would use to control me. When they were finally done, they dropped me back into the dark room. "Good job today," the older guy said before closing the door. "Tomorrow we escalate. Video. You're going to do great things with us, Lysander." That night, or what I thought was night, I sat in the darkness, thinking. Not about escaping. That seemed impossible. Thinking about giving up, about letting them win. Becoming what they wanted me to be because fighting only brought more pain. But then I remembered something. The guy with the piercings, when he brought food, his phone had rung, and for a moment, a second, he was distracted. Looking at the screen, his guard down. If I could create a distraction, if I could get one of them to let their guard down. It wasn't much, but it was something. The next time they opened the door, bringing more food, I pretended to be more broken than I was, whimpering, begging. "Please," I moaned. "I just want to go home. I'll do whatever you want, just please." The guy with the piercings, the youngest, maybe 23, almost looked uncomfortable. "Eat your food," he muttered. Is there any way this can end if I cooperate completely?" "I don't know, kid. That's not my call." "Whose is it?" He hesitated. "Shepard. He runs this." "Shepard. Shepard of Void. The very same. I thought he was just a user." "He's more than that. He's the organizer. He recruits online. He builds trust. Then we complete the process." How many? How many like me?" "You shouldn't ask that." But his face. Guilt there. Small, buried, but present. "Please, just tell me. How many guys have gone through this?" "Lysander." His phone rang. He looked at the screen. "Shit. I have to take this." He turned, walking toward the door, phone to his ear. This was my chance. Maybe my only chance. I stood up, silent, every muscle tense. He moved further away, 3 meters, 4, focused on his call. I ran, straight at him, my shoulders slamming into his back. I wasn't big, but the element of surprise worked. He stumbled forward, dropping his phone. "Hey." But I was already passing him, toward the door of the room, toward the main area of the warehouse. "He's getting away," he yelled behind me. The main area was relatively empty, just 2 other guys at the far end. They saw me. They started running toward me. Exit. Where was the exit? I saw windows above, high up, with dirty glass panes, but accessible if I could climb. There were stacked boxes, old equipment. I used that climbing. My hands slipped on rusty metal. My scarred arm screamed with every movement. "Get down from there." Hands grabbing my ankle. I kicked, connected with a face. I heard curses. I reached the window. I pushed, locked. Of course it was locked. I grabbed a metal bar that was nearby. I used it as a lever. The glass cracked. Then it broke. Glass shards everywhere. Some cutting my hands as I cleared the frame enough to get through. Don't you dare, but I was already squeezing through. Glass cutting. My hands, my arms, my stomach where my shirt had ridden up. Sharp, multiple pain, but better than staying. I fell to the other side, landing hard on pavement. The impact knocked the air out of my lungs, but I got up, running. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what time it was. I just ran. Blood dripped from my hands, from cuts on my face, my chest, leaving a trail. But I didn't care. Behind me, I heard screams, doors opening, engines starting. I ran through the industrial district. Dark buildings on both sides. No people. Just empty streets. Then I saw lights. A main street ahead. Traffic. Civilization. I pushed my legs harder. Lungs burning. Every breath like glass. I reached the street. Cars passing by. Normal. Mundane. Beautiful. I stood on the shoulder, raising my bleeding hands. Several cars passed by. Then one stopped. A sedan. The driver rolled down her window. Middle-aged woman. Worried face. "Good heavens, are you okay?" "Please," my voice came out hoarse. "Call the police. There are people. They kidnapped me. I need help." She took her phone immediately. As she dialed, I looked back toward the industrial district. The white van appeared in the distance, watching me. But then it saw the sedan, the woman on the phone, and stopped. They couldn't come closer. Too many witnesses now. I watched it turn away, disappearing back into the shadows. The police arrived in 10 minutes. They took photos of my injuries. They took my statement, edited, omitting the parts that made me sound stupid for falling for this. "Where is the warehouse?" they asked. "I don't know. They took me in a van, but it's close to here." I pointed vaguely. They searched, for hours, but when they finally found the warehouse that matched my description, it was empty. No equipment, no evidence, clean. "Sometimes these groups move fast," the detective explained. "They know when someone escapes. They clean up and disappear." My mom came to the hospital where I was being treated. She cried. She hugged me. She asked me 1,000 questions I couldn't fully answer. How did they find you? How did they know who you were? "The internet," I said simply. I shared too much. In the weeks that followed, I deleted everything. My social media accounts, my gaming profiles, everything. I became a digital ghost, but I know they're looking for me online, because sometimes, late at night, I get DMs on accounts I thought were dead. Just one line. "You can't hide forever, Lysander. The forgotten remember you." I changed my number, my email, everything. But the mark on my arm remains. Ugly, permanent. Reminding me every day how close I came to disappearing completely. And sometimes, when I'm alone in my room, scrolling mindlessly, I see profiles that look familiar. Usernames that offer real power to lonely teenagers. And I know they're out there. Shepard and his network, hunting, recruiting, finding the next vulnerable kid who just wants to be seen, to be remembered, until he becomes forgotten in a whole new way. I needed a break from the chaos, so I paid thousands for that retreat. 3 days of silence and renewal, they said. Disconnect from the corporate world. Reconnect with your essence. Upon arrival, they took my phone away with a smile. Trust the process. My name is Temperance, 36 years old, VP of marketing at a tech firm in Seattle that consumed my life in chunks of 80 hours a week. I hadn't slept more than 5 hours straight in 2 years. I lived on coffee and Adderall and the constant feeling that if I stopped, everything would collapse. When my assistant, Bryony, found me hyperventilating in the office bathroom, she forced me to seek help. Not regular therapy, she told me. You need something intense, transformative. She handed me a brochure, Summit Ascension Retreat, photos of snow-capped mountains, people meditating in lotus positions, texts about spiritual renewal and awakening the sleeping ego. 3 days, 4 nights, $4,500. In the Oregon Cascades, an hour outside of Bend. Testimonials that sounded too good to be true. Changed my life. I was reborn. I found my true self. But I was desperate, and I had the money. I booked. A week later, I was driving my Tesla down increasingly remote roads. The GPS led me to a dirt road that climbed the mountain, Snow on the edges despite it being April, dense trees. No cell phone signal for 20 minutes. The retreat center finally appeared, a large wooden structure with several outbuildings. Mountain lodge style. It could have been a ski resort in another life. Parking lot with maybe 10 cars. I got out, pulling my suitcase. The air was icy, clean. Total silence except for the wind in the trees. Temperance. A woman came out of the main building, 30-something, blonde hair in a braid, wide smile. "Welcome, I'm Nefili, your process guide." Her hug was unexpected and intense, as if we were old friends. "Did you have a good trip?" she asked, taking my suitcase without waiting for an answer. "Yes, just long. The last part without signal is intentional," she smiled. "Part of the disconnection. Up here, there's no digital noise, just you and the mountain." She led me inside. The interior was warm, rustic. The fireplace was lit. The smell of incense, sage or something similar. There were other people in the lobby, maybe a dozen, all dressed casually and comfortably, all with that same slightly too wide smile. "First things first," Nefili said, pulling out a wooden box. "Electronic devices. Phone, laptop, tablet, smartwatch. Everything goes here for the duration of the retreat." "I understand the phone, but my laptop, the process requires total disconnection." Her smile didn't waver. "Trust me, Temperance. You've paid for transformation. It can't happen while you're tied to the outside world." Other participants were handing over their devices without complaint. It seemed normal to them. I took out my iPhone, my Apple Watch. I put them in the box. Nefili closed the lid. The feeling was immediate, nakedness, as if I had lost a part of my body. "Perfect. Now, your room." She led me down a hallway, simple rooms on both sides. She assigned me a small one, single bed, window overlooking the trees, shared bathroom at the end of the hall. "Dinner in an hour. Please dress comfortably." "And Temperance," she paused at the door. "The process can be intense, challenging, but it's worth it. Just trust." That word, again. Trust. I should have left then. I should have packed my things and driven back. But I had paid $4,500. And I was so tired. Dinner was vegetarian. Lentil soup, whole wheat bread, herbal tea. We sat in a large communal dining room. 15 participants in total, ranging in age from their 20s to their 50s. More women than men. All professionals who looked stressed, tired. My peers. After eating, a man stood up, tall in his 50s, long gray hair tied back in a ponytail, a commanding presence. "Welcome, seekers. I am Evander, lead facilitator of the Ascension Summit. The next few days will be transformative. You will confront your egos. You will face your shadows. But on the other side, you will find freedom." His voice was hypnotic, measured. Every word deliberate. "Tonight we begin gently. An opening circle. Getting to know each other, sharing intentions. But tomorrow the real process begins." The opening circle was in a large room with cushions on the floor. We sat down. Evander guided us in meditation, breathing, visualization. Then sharing. Each person said their name, where they were from, why they were here. The stories were similar: burnout, anxiety, broken relationships, searching for meaning. When it was my turn, "I'm Temperance, from Seattle. I feel like my life is work and nothing else. I don't know, to feel something real again." "Beautiful," said Evander. "Honest. The first step is to recognize the emptiness." It ended around 10 p.m. We were sent to our rooms. Rest. "We're up early tomorrow." I slept poorly that night. The bed was uncomfortable. The silence was too much. No city noise, no phone notifications, just wind and creaks from the building. I woke up with a start at 5 a.m. Someone was knocking on doors. "Up, seekers. The process waits for no one." I got dressed quickly. Leggings, sweatshirt, hiking boots. I went out into the hallway. Others were emerging from their rooms, eyes sleepy. "To the lobby." "Now," urged Nephilim. The lobby was cold. The fireplace was out. Evander was waiting with 3 other facilitators I hadn't seen last night, all dressed in black, serious. "Good morning. Your first test, walk of silence, 3 hours. No words, no communication, just you and the mountain." They took us outside. The temperature had dropped during the night, easily below freezing. The light of dawn was just beginning. They gave us flashlights and lined us up. "Follow me," ordered one of the facilitators, a burly guy in his 30s named Quillen. We started walking, up the mountain on a narrow trail, snow crunching under our boots, my breath forming clouds. After 15 minutes, my fingers were numb despite my gloves. No one spoke. The rules were clear. Only the sound of footsteps. Heavy breathing as the incline increased. 1 hour, 2. Daylight came fully, but the cold did not diminish. My legs burned. I was sweating under the layers, but my face was frozen. At the 3-hour mark, Quillen stopped. We were in a clearing. Spectacular view of the surrounding mountains. Beautiful if it weren't miserable. "Sit down," he ordered. We sat in the snow. The cold immediately penetrated. Meditation, 30 minutes. In silence. Contemplate your insignificance before nature. 30 minutes. In the snow, freezing. For the first 10 minutes, I tried to meditate for real, but the cold was consuming. My teeth chattered. My muscles trembled involuntarily. I looked at others. Some seemed in genuine trance. Others clearly suffered as I did. Finally, "Stand up. We're going back." The walk back was torture. My legs barely responded. When we reached the lodge 3 hours later, I almost cried with relief at the warmth inside. "Breakfast in 20 minutes, then group session," Nephilim announced. Breakfast was minimal. Oatmeal, fruit. I was ravenous after 6 hours of physical exertion. The group session was in the same room as last night. But now, the atmosphere was different, more tense. The facilitators, there were 5 now, surrounded us. "Today," Evander began, "we work on breaking down the ego, that false self you built to protect yourselves, to impress, to fit in." He pointed to a woman, 30s, brown hair, from Austin, according to her introduction last night. "Saffron, come to the center." She obeyed nervously. She stood in the middle of the circle. "Why are you really here?" Evander asked. "I already said, work stress. I need..." "That's a lie." His voice cut like a knife. "Tell me the truth, the real reason." I don't know what... Your marriage is falling apart. Your husband suspects you're cheating on him. And he's right, isn't he?" The color drained from Saffron's face. "How do you know?" "I see it in you. Your guilt, your shame. Confess it. To everyone. Free yourself." Tears streamed down her face. "Yes. Okay. I had an affair. But that's not... Don't justify it. Just admit it. You're a liar, a cheater. Say the words." I'm a liar, a cheater." Louder. "I am a liar, a cheater." She was sobbing now. Evander nodded. "Good. Now you're being honest. Sit down." Saffron collapsed back onto her cushion, broken. My heart was pounding. How had he known that about her? Prior research. Lucky guess. Evander continued, picking people, extracting secrets, shames, weaknesses. Some were vague, polite guesses about common insecurities. Others were chillingly specific. When my turn came, I tensed. Temperance, center. I stood up, my legs unsteady. All eyes on me. "Why do you hate your mother?" The question hit me like a punch. I don't hate her. Lies. You blame her. For your father leaving her. For being weak. For not being the role model you needed. That's not. But the tears were already coming. Because he was right. Those horrible thoughts I had never said out loud. That I barely admitted to myself. Tell the truth. I blame my mother. For not being enough. For making my father leave. And what else? For making me feel like I wasn't enough either. That I had to work twice as hard as anyone else to prove my worth. The words were coming out now, truths I had buried. Good. Evander smiled. Honesty. That's the beginning. Sit down. I sat down, shaking. Not from the cold, from exposure, from vulnerability. The session went on for hours. Each person dismantled, reduced, everyone crying by the end. Today you have taken the first step, Evander concluded. You have admitted your shadows. Tonight, we go deeper. Lunch was silent. No one made eye contact. Everyone was processing what had happened. In the afternoon, free time, but there was nowhere to go. Some walked around the grounds. I stayed in my room, curled up under the blankets, wanting my phone, wanting to call someone to get out of here. But I had paid so much money. And part of me, the broken part, thought that maybe Evander was right. Maybe I needed to break before I could heal. At 8 p.m. they gathered us again, but this time outside. The clearing behind the lodge, already dark. The temperature brutal. There was a large bonfire. Around it, the facilitators waited. Tonight, Evander announced, his voice echoing, you face your fundamental vulnerability, your fear of being seen, completely. He pointed to a structure. It looked like a circle marked in the snow. Inside the circle, only pristine snow. One by one, you will enter the circle. You will undress, completely. You will kneel, and you will confess your greatest shame, to the mountain, to the gods, to the truth. Frozen horror ran through me. Undress? No, absolutely not. It's part of the process, said Nafil, her voice gentle but firm. Total vulnerability, no defenses, no masks. I refuse. Then you leave, now, no refund, and you take your ego intact, your unhealed pain, back to your miserable life. The words were cruel but effective, because she was right. What had changed if I left now? Nothing. I would return to Seattle, to the same hell. Who first? Evander asked. A man volunteered, Corbin, 50, from Portland. He walked into the circle, slow, shaky. He undressed, each garment falling until he was completely naked, the light from the fire illuminating his skin. He knelt in the snow. He screamed, not words, just sound, primal. Then he spoke, his voice breaking. I'm a failure. I lost everything. My business. My family. I'm nothing. Enough, Evander said after 2 minutes. Get dressed. You've been seen. Corbin dressed quickly, shaking violently. Other facilitators wrapped him in blankets. One by one they went, each person undressing, kneeling, confessing. Some for 30 seconds, others for 5 minutes. All crying, all destroyed by the cold and the humiliation. When it was my turn, every fiber of my being screamed no. But I was surrounded. There was no escape except through. I walked into the circle with legs I couldn't feel. I started to undress. Jacket, sweatshirt, shirt, bra, the cold biting into my skin immediately, pants, underwear, boots, naked. Completely naked in mountain snow with 12 strangers and 5 facilitators watching. I knelt down. The cold of the snow was like thousands of needles. My whole body screamed. The cold penetrated my bones, and when Evander whispered my secrets, things only I knew, like my abortion at 23 that I never told anyone about, like how I stole credit for my colleagues' work to get my promotion. A chill worse than the wind ran through me. How? I whispered. How do you know that? I see it in you, in your soul. Confess. Dread set in. This wasn't therapy. It was a trap. I have to get out. Confess first, then you can go. The words poured out. Everything. Every horrible thing I had ever done. Every lie. Every betrayal. Not for catharsis. Out of fear. Out of desperation to escape this frozen circle where my soul was being torn apart. Finally, they let me get dressed. I was shaking so violently that I could barely hold my clothes. Nafil wrapped me in a blanket. You did well, she whispered. The worst is over. But it wasn't over. Back inside, they gave us hot tea. We sat around the fireplace, all in shock. No one spoke. Rest, Evander said. Tomorrow is the final test, the ascension. In my room, I curled up under every blanket I could find, but the cold was inside me now. In my bones. In my soul. How had he known those things? The abortion. The credit theft. Things I had never told anyone. Had they investigated me? Hacked my email? Or was it just psychological mastery, guessing right from my reaction? I didn't know, and that was the scariest part. I woke up to urgent knocking. Up. Final test. 1 hour. Daylight was just breaking. I dressed in a daze. I followed others outside. There were vehicles waiting, 2 SUVs. They ushered us in. We drove for 30 minutes further up the mountain, to a clearing I didn't recognize. Get out. The clearing had something. Wooden structures, boxes, large ones like coffins. My stomach dropped. The ascension, Evander announced, is the final test of trust, of letting go of fear, of being reborn. He pointed to the boxes. Each of you will enter your ascension pod. You will be sealed in, buried shallowly underground. You will remain there for 1 hour, connecting with the darkness, with the death of the ego, and you will emerge transformed. No, I said immediately. Absolutely not. It's symbolic, Nefeli insisted. It's not dangerous. There's an air tube, enough oxygen. You just need to trust. I refuse. Then you leave now. Evander pointed the way. Walk back, 15 miles, in the snow, no phone, no map, or face your fear and complete the process. I looked at the others. Some looked terrified but resigned. One, Saffron, was crying quietly. Me first, said Corbin, always the brave one. They led him to a box. He lay down inside. It was tight, barely enough room for his body. A plastic tube protruded for air. They closed the lid. They sealed it. Then, and my heart stopped, they began to pour dirt on top. Not much, maybe 6 inches, but enough to bury him. The other facilitators began a chant. Low, rhythmic, unnerving. 60 minutes. The clock started. From inside the box, silence. Was Corbin okay, or was he already dead? Next. One by one, they went in, being sealed, buried. Until there were 3 of us left, including me. Temperance. No. The process requires completeness. No. Quillen and another facilitator grabbed me, forcing me into an empty box. Let me go. You can't do this. But they were stronger. They pushed me inside. The space was claustrophobic. I could barely move my arms. Help. Someone. The lid closed. Total darkness. I heard the sound of sealing, nails perhaps, then dirt, falling on the lid. The sound, thud, 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 like hammers on my skull. No, please. More dirt. The weight on top increasing. The box creaking under the pressure. The chanting above, louder now, multiple voices. How many facilitators were really there? I tried to push the lid. It wouldn't budge. Sealed, buried. The panic was total, absolute. My breathing quickened, hyperventilating. The air tube provided oxygen, but it felt insufficient, as if each breath were my last. The earth pressed down. Oxygen was scarce. Each blow of the pickaxe on the surface was a hammer to my skull. I screamed until I was hoarse, imagining worms eating me alive if I failed this test. How long had it been? No clock, no light, only darkness and stale air and the weight of earth above me. 5 minutes, 10, 20. My screams turned to moans, my throat raw, tears soaking my face. I was going to die here, in this box, in this mountain. No one knew where I was. No record except a credit card payment to a probably fake company. 30 minutes, 40. I started hallucinating. I saw lights in the darkness. I heard voices. My mother, my father, Bryony asking where I was. 50 minutes. Then, movement above. The sound of earth being moved. Or was I imagining it? No. Real. Pickaxes digging. The pressure easing. The lid opened, blinding light. Hands grabbing me, pulling me out. I crawled out of the box, gasping, crying, shaking. I collapsed in the snow. "You made it," Evander said. "You've been reborn." I looked around. Other boxes being opened, bodies emerging, some conscious, others not moving. "Are they?" I couldn't finish. "They're all alive, some more receptive to the process than others." He lied, because I saw when they pulled one out, Shepard, a guy in his 30s from Denver, and his skin was blue. He wasn't breathing. "He needs help," I shouted. "He's in transition. The process is sometimes intense." "He's dead." Quillen grabbed me. "Calm down. You're in shock. Processing. That man needs CPR. Ambulance." "There are no ambulances up here. We're in charge. Trust." I saw Nefile doing chest compressions on Shepard. After 2 minutes, he coughed. He breathed. Alive. Barely. The relief was short-lived, because I realized they didn't care if we lived or died. The process was all that mattered. "We're leaving," Evander announced. "Back to the lodge. Closing ceremony." They herded us back into the SUVs. I sat next to Saffron, who was sobbing quietly. "We have to get out," I whispered to her. "This isn't a retreat. I don't know what it is, but it's dangerous." "It's almost over," she murmured. "Just hang in there, then we'll leave." But something in her tone, resignation, told me she didn't believe her own words. Back at the lodge, we were gathered in the dining room. A feast awaited. Real food for the first time. Chicken, vegetables, bread. Ravenous hunger after days of deprivation. "Eat," Evander invited. "You've earned this. You've completed the process. You are new." The food tasted incredible, but my stomach was so tense I could barely swallow. After we ate, Evander stood up. "Congratulations, graduates. You have walked through fire. You have died and been reborn. But," he paused dramatically, "the process never really ends. It is a lifelong practice. That is why we offer ongoing membership, monthly retreats, community, support, for only $500 a month." Ah, there it was. The hook, the real deal. "Think about it," he continued. "Discuss it among yourselves. Decision in the morning before you leave." That night, I went to bed but didn't sleep. Planning, I needed to get out. Now. Not tomorrow. Now. My phone was in that box in Nefile's office, but where exactly? And how to get there without being seen? I waited until midnight. Then I got up, fully dressed, boots on, my backpack with the essentials. I went out into the hallway, dark, silent. I tiptoed toward the administrative area, the door to Nefile's office, closed but not locked. I turned the knob. I went in, moonlight through the window, enough to see. I searched, desk, files. Then, there, the wooden box, with devices. I opened it. I searched frantically. I found my iPhone. I grabbed it, turned it on. No signal, but that didn't matter. I just needed to get off the mountain to where there was coverage. I left the office, toward the lobby, toward the exit. "Where are you going, Temperance?" I froze. Evander, sitting in the shadows by the unlit fireplace, as if he had been waiting for me. Bathroom. "With your phone and your backpack." He stood up. "You don't finish the process halfway. The process is complete. I'm leaving. Without our blessing, without the closing ceremony, the process can be reversed, cause psychological damage. You've opened doors you can't close on your own. Watch." I walked toward the front door. He moved to block it. "Move," I said. "I can't allow you to hurt yourself. It's my responsibility as a facilitator. Your responsibility almost killed me in that box. That was rebirth, necessary. And you survived. You thrived." Lights came on. Other facilitators emerged. Nefil, Quillen. 2 more I hadn't seen before. "Everyone heard the commotion," Vander explained. "They're concerned about you." "I don't need their concern. I need to leave." I was surrounded. 5 of them, 1 of me. "Please return to your room. In the morning, we'll talk. We'll clarify. We'll resolve your concerns. No, Quillen approached. Don't make this harder on yourself. Something in his tone, threat, triggered my survival instinct. I bit, my mouth finding his arm. I bit hard. I heard his cry, tasted blood. In his shock, his grip loosened. I pushed. I ran. Toward the door. I opened it. I stepped out into the cold night. Stop her. Shouts behind me. I ran. Across the parking lot. Toward the trees. The path we had taken on the first day. Footsteps behind. Multiple. Chasing me. I ran down the path. Almost total darkness. Only occasional moonlight through the trees. I stumbled over roots, rocks, but kept going. My feet were bleeding on the rocks. I'd lost a boot in the run, but I didn't stop. Terror was pushing me on. The voices behind me were more distant. They couldn't keep up or had split up to cover more ground. I kept going down. The mountain is always easier to go down than up. Hours, running, walking, jogging, my breath in clouds, muscles screaming, but continuing. Then, light. In the distance, not moonlight. Artificial. The highway. The relief was euphoric. I pushed harder. The last 100 meters were pure agony. I reached the asphalt. An empty highway, in the middle of the night. But it was civilization. It was escape. I sat on the curb. I took out my phone. 1 bar of signal. Enough. I dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? I need help. I don't know where exactly. On a highway. I escaped from a place. Summit Ascension Retreat. They held me against my will. They almost killed me. Ma'am, calm down. Are you hurt? My feet, bleeding, and emotionally. I don't know. Just send someone. Give me your location as best you can. I gave her what I knew. The operator said they would track my GPS, send help. I waited. 20 minutes, 30. Every shadow could be them. Every sound could be their van coming for me. Then, lights, a police car, then an ambulance. Officers got out. They took my statement while paramedics checked my injuries. Shattered feet, mild hypothermia, bruises, dehydration. Where is this retreat? Asked an officer. Theron, according to his badge. Up there, 15 miles maybe. The dirt road to Summit Ascension. And you say they held you against your will? Yes, and they almost killed me. They buried me alive. There are others still there. They radioed. More units. Planned to search the property. They took me to the hospital. Treated my injuries. A detective came. Took a formal statement. We're going to investigate, he promised. But these things, retreat groups, spiritual communities, sometimes it's hard to prove coercion if the participants say they were volunteers. Volunteers. They buried me alive. I understand, and if we find evidence, we'll proceed. But legally, if you signed waivers. I didn't sign anything about being buried. I know, just managing expectations. 3 days later, they contacted me. They had investigated Summit Ascension. The place was empty, completely clean. No evidence of the tests, no boxes, nothing. Evander and his team had disappeared. The other participants, I asked, did you find them? We contacted several. They all say it was an intense but voluntary spiritual retreat. None of them filed complaints. Manipulated. All manipulated into believing it had been transformative rather than abusive. What about Shepard, the guy who almost died? We have no record of anyone by that name being a participant, because it probably wasn't his real name. We had all given names, but how many were fake? The case was closed. No evidence, no cooperative witnesses, just my word. I went back to Seattle, to my apartment, to my life. But nothing was the same. I didn't go back to work. I couldn't. The idea of being in an office, of meetings, of emails, all trivial after what had happened. I quit. I used my savings. I saw a therapist. Months passed. Then a year. I still see wooden boxes and feel the panic rising. I still can't be in small spaces. elevators, closets, anything confining, and sometimes late at night I get emails from anonymous accounts. The process continues. You are part of us now. Do you miss clarity? We can help you again. There is always room for you at the next retreat. I block them. I delete them. I change my email address. But I know they're there, somewhere in the mountains, with a new name, a new facade, finding new stressed-out executives, new victims, and burying them, literally and metaphorically, until someone like me is lucky enough to escape, or unlucky enough to stay and become what they call transformed. It was just a flyer on campus. Explore the Shadows of the Mind Philosophical Debate Club, Saturdays, 8 p.m. I laughed when I saw it posted on the bulletin board outside the NYU library. I thought it would be like a Nietzsche class, maybe some pretentious students discussing nihilism while drinking cheap beer. It sounded perfect for a boring Friday in Manhattan. My name is Aurelius, 20 years old, sophomore philosophy major, trying to find meaning in a world that seemed to have none. I grew up in a Connecticut suburb, the only child of divorced parents who didn't speak to each other except through lawyers. College was my escape. Books, ideas, debates until 3 a.m. about free will and morality. It was the only place I felt alive. The flyer had an address, an abandoned fraternity house on 8th Street near Washington Square Park. I knew the building. It had been shut down 2 years earlier after a drug incident. Now it stood empty, awaiting demolition or renovation. The following Saturday, at exactly 8 p.m., I stood in front of the rusted iron door. The paint was peeling. The windows were boarded up. It didn't look like the place for intellectual debate. It looked like the place you'd go to disappear. I should have left then. The door opened before I could knock. A guy appeared, 30-something, tall, black hair, slicked back, dressed entirely in black, a smile that didn't reach his gray eyes. "Aurelius," he said, not as a question, as a statement. "How do you know my—" "We've been expecting you. I'm Crispin. Welcome to the circle." His voice was smooth as poisoned honey. "Come in. The others have already begun." The interior smelled of dampness and something else. Incense, perhaps. The lobby was dark except for candles, dozens of them, creating dancing shadows on graffiti-covered walls. "This way." Crispin led me to a staircase that descended to the basement. We went down, the temperature dropping with each step, my shoes echoing on the concrete, candlelight illuminating the way. The basement was larger than expected. A room with a low ceiling, support pillars every few feet, more candles, and people, maybe a dozen, sitting in a circle on cushions on the floor, all looking at me when I entered. "Sit down," Crispin ordered, pointing to an empty space in the circle. I sat down. The faces around me were varied. Students for the most part, judging by their ages, some in their 20s, one who looked 40. All with that same intensity in their eyes, as if they knew something I didn't. "Today," Crispin began, standing in the center of the circle, "we have a new seeker. Aurelius has come to explore the shadows, to understand that good and evil are constructs, that true freedom comes from rejecting the slave morality of the masses." It sounded like basic Nietzsche, Philosophy 101, but the way he said it, with that fanatical conviction, was unsettling. "What do you know about Satanism, Aurelius?" he asked suddenly. Not much. LaVey, the Church of Satan. More like atheist philosophy than actual religion, right?" "Exactly," Crispin smiled. "We don't worship Satan as an entity. We use him as a symbol, rebellion against tyranny, individualism over conformity, the right of the strong to dominate the weak." "Sounds a lot like Ayn Rand," I said, trying to sound casual even though my heart was racing. Laughter around the circle. Not kind, mocking. "Rand was an armchair philosopher," Crispin spat. "We live our philosophy. We practice it. Here the weak are broken, The strong are reborn. Those words chilled me. But I was surrounded. 12 pairs of eyes. One way out. The stairs behind me, but Crispin blocked the way. "Let's start with introductions," he continued. "Everyone, say your name and why you're here." One by one they spoke. Names I vaguely remembered. Sable, an NYU art student. Theron, a programmer who worked in Tribeca. Nefeli, a waitress from Brooklyn. All with stories of alienation, of feeling out of place in normal society, of searching for something more. When it was my turn, "I'm Aurelius. I study philosophy." I saw the flyer, and I was curious. "Curiosity," Crispin repeated. "Interesting. Curious about what specifically?" "About unconventional ideas, about challenging norms." "Good. Very good. Curiosity is the first step, but you must be willing to go deeper, to uncomfortable places." "Are you?" Was I? I didn't know. But surrounded by all of them, feeling the pressure of their expectations, I nodded. "Yes." "Excellent." Crispin clapped his hands. "Then you will participate in our first exercise, the Mirror of Shadows." Someone brought in a large mirror, full length, with an ornate frame. They placed it in front of me. "Stand up," Crispin ordered. I stood up. My reflection stared back at me. Tall, thin, messy brown hair, hazel eyes that looked more scared than I wanted to admit. "Look at yourself. Really look at yourself. And say the worst thing about you. The truth you hide from everyone." My mouth went dry. I don't know what. "The worst thing. Your greatest shame. Your darkest secret." The circle waited. Absolute silence, except for the crackling of the candles. "I sometimes wish my mother had died instead of getting divorced," I blurted out, the words coming out before I could stop them. Because at least then, there would be a clear reason for my pain, instead of just emotional abandonment. Why had I said that? I'd never told anyone that, not even myself completely. "Good," Crispin murmured. "Honesty. That's what we're looking for here. No masks, no pretense." The session continued for 2 hours. More exercises, more confessions. By the end, I felt drained, exposed. "Come back next week," Crispin said as I climbed the stairs. "We'll go deeper." I should have said no. I should have blocked my number when he asked for my phone, for group notifications. I should have seen the signs. But I went back, because despite the fear, I had felt seen, understood, and that was a drug more powerful than any chemical. The second meeting was a week later. Same place, same time. But this time there were more people, maybe 20, and a table in the center with glasses. "Tonight," Crispin announced when we all arrived, "we experience transcendence. We break down the barriers between our conscious minds and deep knowledge." He pointed to the glasses. "Elixir of truth, an ancient recipe. It will allow you to see beyond your limitations." "What's in it?" asked someone, a new guy named Quillen. "Herbs, alcohol, secrets." Crispin smiled. "Trust the process." One by one, we took glasses. The liquid was dark, thick. It smelled sweet, but with an underlying bitterness. I drank. It tasted like wine mixed with something medicinal, something that numbed my tongue. "Everyone," Crispin said, "drink deeply. Let the elixir open your minds." We finished our glasses. After 5 minutes, I felt something. The room was spinning gently. The candles became halos of light. Voices sounded distant, as if underwater. "How do you feel?" Crispin's voice echoed. "Dizzy," someone murmured. "Good. That means it's working. Now let's sit down." We sat down in a circle. My legs were jelly. My head was floating. What was in that drink? Crispin began to speak. Words I couldn't quite follow. Something about forbidden knowledge. About power. About how the weak are consumed by the strong. Then the room changed. Not physically, but the atmosphere. It became darker. More threatening. "Aurelius," Crispin said, his voice too loud, too close. "Tell us about Zafira." My heart stopped. Zafira was my ex. We had broken up 6 months ago after she found out I had been seeing someone else. I hadn't told anyone here. "How do you know that name?" "I know you, Aurelius. The Circle knows you. Tell us what you did to her." The world spun faster. I felt nausea rising. "I cheated on her with her roommate, and when she confronted me, I lied. I said she was crazy, that she was imagining things. And what else? I made her entire network of friends think she was unstable, paranoid. I destroyed her reputation to save mine." The words came out like vomit. I couldn't stop them. Why couldn't I stop them? Interesting. Crispin was walking around the circle now. And Shepard, your freshman roommate, the one who transferred out mid-semester, what really happened to him? Oh God, how did he know about Shepard? "I stole money from him, $300, and when I confronted him, I told him I'd seen him stealing from others. I had him investigated. They found him guilty of something I did. I see a pattern," Crispin observed. "Betrayal, manipulation, the weak being crushed by the smarter. You're stronger than I thought, Aurelius." His approval should have made me feel good. Instead, it terrified me. I felt the world spinning more violently now, and suddenly everyone was around me. Closer, too close, whispering, their voices overlapping. "Traitor. Liar. Weak. One of us." I tried to stand up, my legs wouldn't respond. Then something hit me, a punch to my stomach that knocked all the air out of my lungs. "Stay still, brother." Theron's voice. "The Circle chooses you." I doubled over. The pain was sharp, real, cutting through the drug haze. I vomited, the contents of my stomach spilling onto the concrete floor. Laughter. Everyone laughing, as if my suffering were entertainment. "Part of the process," Crispin explained calmly. "The ego must be broken before it can be rebuilt. Aurelius is resisting. He needs help." Hands grabbed me, multiple hands, holding me up while someone poured more of the elixir down my throat. I choked, coughing, but they forced it in. Sweat soaked my shirt. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would explode. The room was now spinning in complete circles. "Let him process it," Crispin ordered. They let go of me. I collapsed on the floor, the cold concrete against my cheek. I could hear whispers around me, movement, but I couldn't focus. How long was I there? I don't know. Minutes, hours. Time had no meaning. When I finally regained some clarity, I was alone in a corner of the basement. The circle continued. Others being interrogated, confessing, crying. I should have left then. I should have dragged my body upstairs and never come back. But when the session ended, when Crispin helped me up with false gentleness, when he said, "You did well tonight, brother," part of me believed it. "Rest," he told me. "Next week is your real initiation. You'll be ready." I didn't go back to NYU that night. I ended up in my apartment, vomiting until there was nothing left. My roommate Marlowe found me in the bathroom at 4 a.m. "Dude, what happened to you?" "I drank too much," I lied. "Bad party." He looked at me with concern but didn't press. I spent the next few days in a fog. I couldn't concentrate in class. I couldn't eat properly. I kept getting messages from the circle. "We miss you, brother. Saturday is important. Don't miss it. You're ready to move up." I should have blocked the number. I should have gone to the police. Instead, the following Saturday, there I was again, standing in front of that rusty iron door. This time, the door was open, waiting for me, as if they knew I would come. I went down the stairs. The basement had changed. They had moved things around. Now there was a chair in the center. Metal, with straps. My stomach dropped. "Aurelius." Crispin appeared from the shadows. Punctual, always punctual. An admirable quality. "What's that?" I pointed to the chair. "Your throne, for your trial." "Trial. Every member must be judged, evaluated, to ensure loyalty, commitment, to ensure they are not infiltrators, spies, weaklings who would break under pressure. Others arrived. More than before, 30 perhaps, filling the basement, all with that same fanatical look. "Sit down," Crispin ordered. "I don't know if—" "Sit down." His voice like a whip. Hands pushed me, forced me into the chair. Straps closed around my wrists, my ankles, my chest. "What are you doing?" Panic rose. "Let me go." "Calm down," Crispin murmured. "The trial is necessary. If you pass, you're a brother forever. If you fail, well, there's no failing, just different levels of commitment." Someone brought a laptop. They opened it in front of me. The screen showed a gallery of photos. They were mine. Photos from my phone, private. Me with Zafira, with Shepard, with my family. Screenshots of messages. Emails, everything. "How?" My voice trembled. "When you gave us your number, you gave us access. The Circle sees everything, Aurelius. Every message, every photo, every dirty secret you thought was hidden." The horror was complete. They had hacked my phone. They had everything. Everything that could destroy my life if it got out. "And now," Crispin continued, "the trial. You will prove your loyalty. Or you will prove your weakness." Someone turned on brighter lights, blinding, pointed directly at me. A camera on a tripod appeared, recording. "What is this?" "Documentation. The Circle keeps records for mutual security." I understood then. This wasn't about philosophy. It was control, blackmail. Once they had video of whatever they were about to do, they would have me forever. No, I'm leaving." I pulled at the straps. They wouldn't budge. "Too late to leave, brother." Crispin pulled something from his pocket. A knife, not sharp. The edge was blunt, rusty. "The pact is sealed in blood. Marks you will bear as a reminder of your commitment." "No," I shouted. "Help! Someone!" "Scream all you want," said Nephele, appearing with more knives. "We're underground, surrounded by empty buildings. No one can hear you except the Circle." And one by one they approached, each with a razor. Crispin was first. He pressed the blunt edge against my forearm. He pushed. The skin resisted, then gave way. Sharp, burning pain, blood dripping. "1," he counted. The next one. Another cut, parallel to the first. "2," I screamed, the sound tearing my throat. But they continued, each member of the Circle taking turns, cutting. Each cut was a fire on my skin, warm blood dripping onto the concrete floor. Tears ran down my face, snot, saliva, all dignity destroyed. 12, they counted. 12 cuts on my left arm, forming a pattern, a distorted star. Now the other arm. "No more, please." But they didn't stop. Another arm, more cuts, more pain. The smell was nauseating, blood, sweat. My own fear in the stale air of the basement. 20. Finally they stopped. My arms were a mass of open flesh. Blood soaked through my shirt, dripping onto the floor, forming puddles. "Good," said Crispin, wiping his razor on a rag. "You have been marked. You have been judged. Now you are of the Circle. Forever." Forever. My voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, because we have everything. Every photo, every secret. This video of you being marked, which to any outsider would look like a voluntary ritual. If you try to leave, if you talk, if you betray the Circle in any way, your life ends. You understand, right?" I nodded weakly, because I understood. I was trapped. They untied me. I collapsed to the floor. Someone wrapped my arms with bandages. Poorly done, immediately stained red. "Rest here tonight," Crispin ordered. "Tomorrow meet again. We have work for you." Work. They dragged me into a corner. They threw me an old sleeping bag. They left, going upstairs. I heard the click of a lock. I was locked in, alone, in the dark, with my wounds throbbing. I cried. For the first time since I was a child, I cried uncontrollably. Sobs shook my body, because I understood now. I had walked straight into a trap, and there was no way out. I spent that night shaking, from pain, from cold, from terror. In the morning, or what I assumed was morning without windows, the door opened. Nephili came down with food, bread, water. "Eat," she said. Not cruel, almost maternal. "You need strength." "Why are you doing this?" I asked. "Doing what?" "This, cutting, trapping people." "It's not a trap. It's initiation. It's revelation. The world is cruel, Aurelius. The strong dominate the weak. Better to be strong. Better to be on the side that controls. This is torture." "No. Torture is living in a society that tells you you have value but treats you like trash. Here, at least the hierarchy is honest. You know your place." "And what is my place?" "Younger brother. For now. You do what you're told. You learn. You grow. Eventually, you'll participate in initiations. You'll recruit new members." The cycle continues. "I won't do it." He smiled sadly. "Everyone says that at first. But you will. Because the alternative is that everything we have on you, every embarrassment, every secret, this video, goes public. Your family sees it, your university, future employers, your life is over." He left. The lock clicked again. I was locked up for 3 days. 3 days of pain, hunger, fear. They brought me food twice a day. They let me use a bucket in the corner for my needs, like an animal. On the 3rd day, they let me out, but not free. They took me to a meeting. This time, the basement was full. 50 people, maybe. All from the circle. All staring at me when I walked in. "Brothers," Crispin announced. "Aurelius has been judged, branded, and he has remained loyal. Now it is time for his first contribution." They gave me a laptop. A list of names. NYU classmates, Facebook friends, acquaintances. "Recruits," Theron explained. "You contact them. You invite them. You use the words we will give you. You bring them here." "No." "Yes." Crispin appeared behind me. "Or your video goes to your mother. Tonight. Imagine her watching her son being cut, thinking you chose this, that you willingly joined a satanic cult." The blackmail was perfect. Complete. I had no choice. I started writing messages to people I barely knew. "Hey, there's this interesting philosophy club. You should come." Casual conversations that built up to the invitation. It worked. 2 people said yes. They would come next Saturday. "Excellent," said Crispin. 2 more for the flock. I felt sick. I was becoming what they were. Predator. Recruiter. Weeks passed. Every Saturday, a meeting. Every week, more people being lured in, being drugged, being cut, being recorded. And I participated, not by choice, for survival. Because every time I considered running, they showed me the video. They reminded me what they had. But I kept a secret. My old phone, the one I had replaced after they hacked the first one, I kept it hidden, disconnected, waiting for the right moment. That moment came 3 months after my initiation. There was a special ceremony, a big one. They would bring in 10 new initiates at once. The basement would be full, chaotic. That night, I arrived early as instructed, helping to prepare, setting up chairs, mixing the elixir. I now knew the ingredients: vodka, GHB, a sedative they bought illegally, poison wrapped in philosophy. The ceremony began. Newcomers arrived. They drank. The confusion began. And in the chaos, everyone focused on the newcomers, on recording their reactions, their confessions. I moved toward the corner where they kept the confiscated phones. I found mine. I grabbed it. No one noticed. Everyone was absorbed in the spectacle of terror they had created. I moved toward the stairs, slowly, casually, as if I were just going to the bathroom. I reached the first step, the second, the third. "Where are you going?" Sable's voice behind me. "Bathroom," I lied. "Too much elixir." She looked at me suspiciously. But downstairs, someone was screaming. A new initiate panicking. Sable was distracted. I climbed faster. I reached the door upstairs. It wasn't locked. They were still expecting more arrivals. I stepped out into the dark lobby, toward the front door. Behind me, I heard screams. "He's escaping. Aurelius is escaping." I ran, through the door, to 8th Street. It was midnight. The village still had people, students, tourists, nightlife. I ran toward them, toward witnesses, toward safety, footsteps behind, multiple, chasing me. "Aurelius, come back. You can't run from us." But I kept going, through Washington Square Park, surrounded by people. I took out my phone, dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? "I need help. There's a cult. They held me against my will. They tortured me. I have evidence." The line cut out. My phone died. Battery drained after months of disuse. Shit. I kept running. Toward the bright lights of Broadway. More people. More witnesses. Eventually, the footsteps behind me stopped. They couldn't follow me in public. Too visible. But I didn't stop until I reached the police station on 10th Street. I went inside. Breathing heavily, hands on my knees. "Help," I gasped to the officer at the desk. "I need to report. Cult, torture, blackmail." They looked at me skeptically but took my statement. I showed them my arms, the scars from the cuts, still visible, pink and ugly. They investigated. They went to the abandoned fraternity house, but as I feared, it was empty. Clean. No evidence of the ceremonies. No chairs with straps, no cameras, nothing. "Sometimes these groups move fast," the detective explained. "They know when someone talks." But they had videos of me, of others. Evidence. Where are those videos? They have them, on their devices. We'd need a warrant for that. And we'd need real names, addresses. Do you have them? I didn't. Just first names. Just the basement as a location. No solid evidence. The case stalled. Without cooperative witnesses, I contacted others I knew had been initiated, but they all denied it, scared by the same blackmail that had controlled me. I left NYU. I moved back to Connecticut. I changed my number. I deleted all my social media, but I can't completely escape, because I still get messages from unknown numbers, new accounts popping up. The circle remembers, brother. You can't run from who you are. Marked forever. And they're right. The scars on my arms are permanent. Physical reminders of my time in that basement. But worse than the physical scars are the mental ones. I can't hear whispers without feeling panic. I can't go into basements. I can't trust invitations to clubs or groups. Every notification on my phone makes me jump, and I know they're out there, in some basement in some city, with a new name. A new facade, finding new curious students, new victims who think they are joining a philosophical debate, until the first sip of elixir burns their throat, until the first cut opens their skin, until they understand that the circle will never let them go, because once marked, always marked, and the circle whispers your name forever.